Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini.
And we have a special guest today.
Very special, from very far away.
Yes. And I love our accent already. It's wonderful. I love that New Zealand accent. It's very charming, Doc. So, Dr. Heidi Haavik, we always ask, the first question is, give us your 2-minute bio of someone who doesn't know you.
I think there's about four people. Yeah.
There might be a few.
Right.
Thanks, Mark and Paul, for having me. This is really exciting. I have a bit of an odd accent because I'm part Norwegian, part Kiwi, New Zealander. And I lived in England as a little girl, so I've got a bit of a weird mixture. No one can really place my particular accent. I am a chiropractor, but I also went on and did a PhD in human neurophysiology, and I've spent the last 25 years of my life studying why the spine is so important for your health and your well-being and your function. And it's been an incredible journey because we've discovered so much over these last 25 years. So we much better understand now what a subluxation is, what specifically happens in the brain and body when you adjust subluxations. And I've just enjoyed traveling the world and sharing this knowledge all around the world to not just chiropractors, but, I'll speak with anyone. I don't really care. Neurosurgeons, doctors, physios, the public. Yeah, just change the level of language somewhat, but it's exactly the same story. Very, very fascinating. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I have to say, because you mentioned Norway, they really rocked it at the Olympics, the Winter Olympics.
Yes.
40, top of the medal
They
count.
always do. They
Yeah.
always do. I mean, we crazy Norwegians, we just about ski before we walk, and it's insane. I mean, as a kid, I even skied to school and I had our skates over our shoulders because they hosed down the soccer pitch and, we skated in the breaks. Just mental stuff, eh? Now I look, so no wonder they did.
Yeah.
You did the downhill just to go to school. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that was cross country, but there's mountains everywhere. So just, 5-minute drive and we've got a downhill ski slope. And so to me, that was just normal. That's how you grow up. And
that's cool, though. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with one simple question, because I think what you said just a minute ago about the subluxation, and maybe if you could just spend a couple seconds on relieving the fear that some of these doctors who are graduating from wherever are having when they use the word subluxation. They'll actually have like a panic over the concept of using the word subluxation.
Really? Why?
Oh, because the schools, we have schools here that teach you're not allowed to even use the word.
Oh, see, I find that really sad.
Thank you.
See, I grew up bilingual, right? So to me, a word's just a word. It's the concepts that matter.
Right.
So my dad's Norwegian, my mum's a Kiwi. So I'd speak English to mum and Norwegian to dad, and it sort of merged into, every second word. But depending who I was speaking to. So to me, the words themselves have never mattered. It's the concepts that have mattered the most to me. So again, I had no bias, even though my dad's a medical doctor, and supposedly there's, all of this.
He didn't disown you when you became a chiropractor?
And bless him. Guess what he said to me when I came happily and told him as a 20-year-old I'm going to be a chiropractor? He goes, "Oh, Heidi, that's wonderful. They do a lot of good for a lot of people." That was his response.
Nice.
So I had no idea again, and maybe it's because I was so naive. To me, it was no problem even studying it when I was doing my PhD, right? Because in New Zealand, again, there's less infighting. So for us, it's perfectly okay to talk about the concept of the subluxation. And my role has been literally uncovering the neuroscience behind it. And it's really fascinating. It's a subtle difference to what the original theories were, but it's remarkable how close it is too. That really gets me, eh? I'm sitting there going,
putting all those big words to the safety pin cycle, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And what are the 3 reasons that causes subluxation? Trauma, toxins, thought. Well, guess what we found in the research literature, according to this model, is physical injury, emotional injury, like going into fight and flight, or local inflammation. Traumas, toxins, and thoughts. It's far out,
Far out, yeah.
Yeah. So the subtle difference is that it's not when we're adjusting the subluxation, we're not actually relieving pressure off the nerve root. Like that's the subtle difference. What we're actually doing is we're stretching the paraspinal muscles, especially the deep ones that cross individual vertebra. And they've dysfunctioned for a while when we've been subluxated. That's another whole bunch of research. So when you stretch those little muscles that have shrunken and atrophied and become fatty infiltrated, it's like, whoa, it wakes the brain up and the brain goes, oh my goodness, what just happened? And it kind of resets itself. And then you have a more appropriate control of that segment, but it also changes all sorts of other things, which is exactly what chiropractors see in practice. People come in for their first adjustment and they're sleeping better. They can go off their blood pressure medication, or their baby's colic has changed, or, the big toe that they never told you about, or the tinnitus in their ears that, again, I'm like, what tinnitus? You didn't even say anything about the tinnitus.
Because you can't help that.
Exactly. And so I'm just so passionate about connecting the dots for the patients out there, and the chiros for that matter, especially chiros that don't even dare use the term. Crikey, that's our legacy. This is
Can I ask you,
Thank
doctor?
you.
Can I ask
Thank
you? Do you?
Yeah.
You've been in the game for a long time now.
Yeah.
Do you find chiropractors better or not as good about explaining what chiropractic is to their patients?
Oh, they're absolutely crap at it most of the time. Yeah, but only because we haven't had solid scientific facts, I feel.
Okay.
And of course, I'm entitled to that opinion, right? But so I think they kind of skirt around it and avoid it. And I think because they have some fear around it, it comes across. Whereas that's what I'm hoping that we can change through the science, because the science actually, joins beautifully with the old philosophies. There's just a couple of tweaks here and there. And so I think that can give us a lot more confidence, and then we should be able to explain chiropractic care in a much better way. Hey, throw out a little fun fact in there too. My great-grandfather on my mother's side was actually one of the first 1,000 chiropractors ever to graduate from Palmer College in 1924 in BJ's days.
No way.
Oh my God.
Yes way.
That's
Jeez.
amazing. Wow.
Geez, boy, you
how
missed
cool
that
is
one.
that?
She just threw one right across the home plate and you let it go.
Listen, she's a guest. I'm not going to say anything about age. What are you talking
No, I was
about?
gonna. He always gives me a hard time
Yeah,
about my age, and
I do.
I would have expected him to say, "Oh, what was it like graduating then?"
Oh, yeah. I should have asked Mark. Did you know her?
So let me say this though. Now that we've kind of said the whole subluxation thing,
Well,
and
hold
the
on.
whole
I have to
debate about
ask. I
using
have
it
to ask.
is
Did she
gone.
know Harvey Lillard? Like how much older was that? I'm
Hey,
not the
my
chiropractor.
great-grandfather. My great-grandfather.
Not you, your great-grandfather. That's what I'm asking. Like,
Well, I don't actually know because, of course, he's dead. And
yeah. But when was
actually
Harvey
died.
Lillard? When was that whole story? What year was that?
1895.
That was DD, yeah,
So that
1895.
1895.
Yeah.
I guess
And
that
this
would
was 1924. And that's the
30
reason I was
something.
actually born in New Zealand, because this great-grandfather of mine and his wife and my grandfather all died in a car accident. And my grandmother was never meant to walk again, blah, blah, blah. And of course she, with chiropractic care, was absolutely fantastic and walked her dog and drove a little red Mercedes until she was 93. But that's why we ended up in New Zealand. So that's why I'm actually born in New Zealand, even though I grew up in Norway. But yeah, weird.
Did you know he was a chiropractor before you decided to be a chiropractor?
Yes, Paul, but I didn't really know what chiropractic was. So I grew up in Norway in the medical model, but my mother had all of these weird ideas, which of course I just thought were normal ideas, all about, healthy eating, healthy living. She would make everything from scratch. We used to take supplements as a kid in little egg cups,
Yeah.
And to me, all of this was normal, but of course it's come through her chiropractic side. And we would go and visit my family in New Zealand, and then we'd always get adjusted. But my uncles in Norway, my dad's family, I had a physiotherapist. So I kind of thought chiropractic was this glorified physiotherapist type thing. And I didn't really understand until I went out to New Zealand as a 20-year-old and visited New Zealand, as, just having fun. And then found out about the New Zealand College of Chiropractic and thought, oh, this would be cool because I don't want to leave. I'm enjoying New Zealand. And I applied. And so I didn't really know the difference. And even then, remember, this is in New Zealand where it's not so, the infighting doesn't really exist. So we had an awesome physiology lecturer, science lecturer, and we had an awesome philosophy lecturer. And then we had the clinical head. So those three, Bernadette Murphy was a science person, Phil McMaster was our philosophy guy, and then Jim Stanier was our technique. And they had such integrity and they were such amazing people that it all blended so nicely together and we had no arguments. But one thing I did realize is we knew nothing. I'm always the one asking the questions. Also, how come that happens? Oh, we don't actually know. So how come that happens? Oh, we don't actually know. So how does it really work? Oh, we don't actually know. But here are the theories. Right? And I'm like, but theories? And that's where that desire to understand just blossomed in me. And I continued.
When you see this and you go down this path of explaining what we do in scientific terms, it resonates with me because I feel that one of the biggest missing links in our profession is the lack of universality of what we say and how we say it. So everybody has a different definition of a subluxation. There's as many different definitions of subluxations as you have chiropractors. So we need to start bringing everything to the center.
And I'm hoping that's what this basic science will do, Mark, because it is coming together. And the interesting thing is it sort of bridges the gap between what clinicians see in practice with science, with solid science, even explains why some of our clinical trials don't have the great outcomes that we're expecting. Like, give you an example, some of the clinical trials that are being done there, they might have like 5 adjustment sessions, what they call spinal manipulation, right? And that might be done by physical therapists, which might just manipulate where someone hurts, right? Whereas when you look at the neuroscience of it, it seems to matter significantly where you apply that the high velocity, low amplitude thrust. If you're actually directing it at a subluxated segment or some kind of spinal dysfunction, you have the big changes in the brain. You don't get those if you're putting that HVLA thrust into a healthy joint. And it makes sense neuroscience-wise because if you've got healthy, plump, movable muscles and you stretch them, yeah, okay. But if you've got atrophied, shrunken, fatty infiltrated, changed fiber types, stiff fibrotic muscles and you stretch them and they haven't been talking to the brain for God knows years, right? Of course there's going to be a physiological difference. And it seems to be that lack of information leads to these negative changes in the way the brain perceives what's happening either inside your body or the world around you. Hence, you can end up with so many different kinds of symptoms. And of course, when you get adjusted and the brain wakes up, it's only going to correct what that subluxation and that lack of brain information was causing symptom-wise. So for one person, even though it's a C1 on the left, for one person that might change their headaches and sleep patterns. For another, it might be that their gut function improves and their heart blood pressure medication suddenly drops down. But it's still just a C1 subluxation. It's
right. Everybody
we can't
responds.
yet identify what the subluxation patterns are causing symptom-wise. There's too many unknowns.
So I have to ask this. I'm the layperson in this group right now, right? So, Doc, let me ask you this question because Dr. Davini and I have talked about this on other episodes. You got 100 chiropractors in the room. 100 chiropractors will palpate and come up with 100 different things. Will your research standardize that, do you think, or?
I don't like the word standardization, first and foremost. And I think there is, I have utmost respect for clinicians because they're really artists, right? If I try to tell, Picasso how to paint, it wouldn't end up a masterpiece, right? So I don't like telling chiropractors how to suck eggs, basically. So, but can we dive into it, Paul, and better understand what these various different clinicians are finding and doing? That absolutely we can. And what we might find is that different approaches or techniques actually activate slightly different tissues and have a slightly different response. But what's really interesting, Paul, is we've done some clinical trials again where we've had multiple different chiropractors, doing vastly different kind of techniques, anything from drop table to activator technique to diversified or Gonstead, right? Very, very different. Funnily enough, they're all getting the positive change. In particular, this one study, we had older adults, they all picked up. So it's almost like, I think, once we get our students to a certain level, they'll accidentally get people better, which, but as they fine tune it and hone their skills and their expertise and their communication and their intent, we're even going right into, I'm going to hopefully blow your mind here, Paul, I actually think physiologically we can actually change someone else's physiology with our mind or our energy. I'm not quite sure if that's mirror neurons or what it is, but we're even starting to record brain waves from both the doctor and the patient at the same time. Because I think this is where technique masters are going to come out and shine, is I think we have this ability to tune into each other. Like this is called hyperscanning in the neuroscience literature. And they've shown things like if a mama plays with her newborn baby, baby's brain synchronizes with mum's brain. And I think there might be something like that going on. So this isn't just about forces into a spine. It's about how you connect with that human being, how you tune into their physiology, and I think even like right down to your intent matters, which is why you've got to break all of this apart. And this is where you've got these different, artists, I mean, I can see Mark's just about jumping on his seat here wanting to say something.
I get excited with you, so excuse my enthusiasm, but it's exactly what a lot of, I'm going to say more contemporary chiropractors need to hear, that this is not so mechanistic that you just do this and everything works, that there is a vibrational component to what we do, and that healer type of mindset, if you want to use older terms. But one way or another, we are not just technicians.
No. And I mean, that's one of the things, again, that New Zealand does so well. Like the college, the association, the board, we all speak to each other. We don't bitch about each other. We actually have an agreement that if something's a bit off, you pick up the phone and you speak to each other. But anyway, that's this interconnectedness. But also we have this respect for the art, the science, and the philosophy. So like I'll be brought in, for example, when my Gonstead lecture goes, now I do know that, back in the days, Gonstead adjustments are brilliant, but I do know that we don't relieve pressure or squash nerve. So Heidi, could you come in and explain how we might impact organs? Because I know we can. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I go in to the Gonstead class and explain now with the latest science, what some of these geniuses from the past, they might have had a few things wrong. And funnily enough, even Aristotle and Newton and, these guys got a few things wrong too. And that's okay. Doesn't mean we need to hide them in the closet, and we have our own. Like it's unreal what Didi and BJ and Gonstead, some of these massive people came with. We actually have less of these contemporary gurus, but we have some. Yeah. And I like to study them if I can, I rope them into an experiment because there's something they do, not that we can explain it all. So it's that interaction, and it's not just a HVLA force or manipulation into a particular segment. Yeah, it's not. Right. There's the whole interaction. There's the biopsychosocial interactions that take place, but there's also something very unique with that thrust at a subluxated segment. I don't like to move away from it either,
Yeah, we see that in our group. We're in contact with literally hundreds and hundreds of people a month. And there's definitely a pattern going on where it's becoming less, the doctors are starting to feel like they have less impact on, we'll say, the world. And they're almost their worst enemy, and letting them think that they do so little for somebody now that it's starting to take its toll on their attitudes toward chiropractic and their practice.
I see that a lot, Mark, when I'm around giving talks to chiropractors. Like you would not believe how many, in particular, older chiropractors almost come up, crying after a talk and going like, you've given me back the understanding of the power of the adjustment and what it is I do. And I'm kind of hoping that as a profession, we can at least band around this thing about the spine. And that's our core thing. I don't mind. You can have whatever scope you want. I really don't care. But if we can at least agree on that the main thing that we're very, very good at is improving the function of the spine. And I'm even into different techniques. That doesn't worry me either. So long as that's our core function, that we're improving that spinal function through whatever techniques we use, which usually involves some, HVLA thrusts at dysfunctional segments or subluxations. And then that's a way we can unite about what's uniquely us, and it's totally cool if you can also, do minor surgery. I don't care. But, if you've got the qualifications and you might be in an area where people don't have anything else, of course, you go for it. Right. But just this is our core thing. And that's why it's so easy for me to speak to other professions as well. Like, I mean, my uncle's a physiotherapist and we have great conversations. They're all excited about how we could start the studies together where we can activate these core muscles and the feed-forward activation of different muscles. And we could do that in these stroke populations. And I'm like, yeah, we can. We've even done 3 or 4, 5 studies now in stroke victims, survivors, stroke survivors, that shows not only do we make their brain able to contract that muscle that they've lost the function of, partially, improve that. But we even see that their functional activities of daily living has a significant improvement above physiotherapy. So physiotherapy alone has a clinically meaningful improvement, but you add chiropractic and it is another clinically meaningful improvement beyond that. So there's no problem to have these interdisciplinary conversations, because to me, this is our core. Some of us, great at all kinds of other things, but this is the core that makes us unique, and it actually seems to make all other things function better. So I quite like to position chiropractic as like the foundation that the pillars of health stand on. Like, for example, like breaking it down real simple, if we're adjusting and enabling the brain to more accurately perceive what's going on, it should be able to digest food better. Right? Because it's more accurately aware of what's going on. You should be able to hear better, see better, integrate what's going on around you, inside you better, move your arms and legs in a more appropriate fashion. Like even people that go to the gym all the time, yeah, it's great. But if you're going to the gym and you're really subluxated, you could be causing a whole lot of micro traumas because you might be sending the wrong messages, because oddly enough, our arms and legs attach to the spine, either directly or indirectly. And
Tell an insurance company that for me, would you?
I know. The brain can't send the right messages to your arms and legs about how to contract their muscles if it's not aware of where your core is. I mean, it's like, duh. But, and most public have no problem understanding this if you actually speak to them in these sort of, these terms. Is it making sense?
It's the that the universally is missing.
Where we have a challenge is here in the United States is that we've got a third-party health coverage system that doesn't really believe what you just said. And they put us in the same, us chiropractors, let's say I'm not a chiropractor, but the chiropractic profession, in the same pool as physical therapists or massage. I'm a massage therapist. So you really resonated with me when you talked about going on the same wavelength and that biofeedback and that, that fill in the blank, that nondescript connection you have with your client or your patient that brings you towards working with them in the way that if you're getting that feedback from them.
And I think that's kind of the key in many different things. Like, I think when you think about even what is exercise, well, you're repeatedly contracting the same muscles which send information to the brain, which enables the brain to more accurately perceive what's going on in those muscles. So, or if you're using acupuncture or massage, again, it's bringing awareness to the brain about what's going on. I just think there's something remarkably unique about the adjustment, because those muscles have not functioned so well for so long. And I'm well aware of what's going on in the States, and it's absolutely mental. Excuse my, I was actually quite gentle with the terminology there.
I was just going to say, we can join you on going other places with it,
We can bleep on that one. I'm even part of this organization in the United States called Chiropractic Future. So we've put together a strategic plan. We all donate our time, amazing group of chiros and non-chiros, and working towards changing these things, Paul, because we have to come together as a group and do that. It's not something. So again, if there's chiros out there that would like to see this happen in the future, please check out that chiropracticfuture.org, I think is the website.
Sure.
And help us, become part of it. Make a little donation every month, like freaking $50 or something. It's not that hard. And if we can come together, then we can quite calmly explain the science, and we actually have science now. Like up until the last 25 years, we didn't have scientifically supported, biologically plausible mechanisms to explain how our adjustments work. We do now. Not only that, we've got the capacity, like we're doing a study showing that the brain is sending different messages to, say, our arm muscles during a muscle test. And I'm sure there's chiropractors out there that use the muscle test in practice, and that's just been looked at as airy-fairy bullshit. And I'm like, no, I've practiced that way myself. And again, I didn't have all these biases. So I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm an AK practitioner. What are you talking about? What? And then we're now exploring it with really solid neuroscience. I mean, I'm only in the room to provide the adjustment. It's these incredibly smart bioengineers that are collecting all the data and decomposing the motor units into individual motor units from the EMG, and can tell me now with solid data that no, when you're muscle testing and you're doing a challenge or a therapy localization, for example, I'm just saying as an example that patient's touching a subluxated segment, or the chiropractor is, the brain changes its control of that muscle. This isn't something we're making up, and the better we can look into these different techniques, to me, like I won't knock any techniques anymore, nothing, because to me, it's just something that we haven't scientifically explored yet. But we are our own biggest problem too, Paul, because we do not fund research. Like,
Right.
we do not put money into research. Where are we getting our research dollars from?
Yeah.
I mean, most schools can't even afford to keep a PhD anymore. It's really sad. And these are the things that have to change for us to have a future that our patients deserve, that we do. Like, we got to sort our own shit out so that our patients get access to this. The reason it drives me is I've seen this in children and babies and animals, and like, they deserve a life where they can function at their optimal potential. Like, there's nothing sadder to me than seeing a little kid who's clumsy as anything, bedwetting, migraines, whatever. Their quality of life, their belief in themselves is just destroyed, right? And we know we can make a difference, and they deserve us. But we've got to come together, or this isn't going to happen.
Let me connect the dots with that, with a really cool platform that you have, kairoshub.com, right? I went on there and I said, wow, look at these really, you have some sample videos, it looks like, of how a chiropractor can help educate their patients without, just in a waiting room, I guess, or wherever you want.
Yeah.
It's pretty
and
cool.
with easy language, right? Yeah.
Right, because I think there is a challenge. I don't think it really matters what age the chiropractor is or how long they've been in chiropractic. I think there's a challenge because I think the patient base has changed and information is everywhere, and not all information is good information. And
No.
so I enjoyed looking at the Kairos Hub website that you have, because I'm like, look at how cool this is, and a really easy way to digest as a layperson. I'm not a chiropractor, right? I've been around them long enough, but you know.
I built this, Paul, because I was realizing that, when you do a PhD, you spent 5 years learning a language that most people don't understand, right? And it took me a while when I was teaching the students at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic about this science, that they weren't understanding me. And I saw that in my course evaluations. I cried sometimes. It was so bad. So I just kept trying to improve and improve. So I've built an entire library now, Paul, for chiropractors to learn the science, because many chiropractors don't even know their own science. They don't know that what's been done in the last 25 years. So and it's not just our research. We've sort of translated the science from other research areas as well. But then I figured out that the students understood me because I assessed them properly, but they still couldn't communicate it in the chiropractic center with their patients. So I'm like, I've got to give them the lay language. I've got to provide them with the next level as well. And again, that's why we built that Kairos Hub. So in our memberships on Kairos Hub, you get basically access to this huge library. People say it feels like I'm drinking from a fire hose. I realize
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But it's very valuable, because once you start digesting it and get into it, there's classes there for you chiropractors that have the physiology and the, understanding of science that are, so not just at lay language. And then there's all the Kairos Hub resources, which is for patients, so that you've got both there. So if one of the videos, and you don't know the science behind it, but you'd like to be able to, you can go and see the corresponding class there. But we've put it out now in many different topics, again, anything from what's the science on, but it's all, what does the evidence tell us? And then I've translated that into lay language to make that easy for chiropractors to share with their patients. We've even gone so far now, because I've realized too, Mark, that funnily enough, chiropractors don't want to do anything. They're already too busy and burnt out. So we've created a bronze level now, and at least let me share the science with your patients. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to learn anything. And that's that lowest level of membership where you get a QR code. Okay.
So
all you need to
if we
do
were to
is Show the QR code to your
Yeah.
patients, and they can access this information.
If we were to ask you, because we could do this for about the next 40 hours, but if we were to ask you, like, what would you say to a chiropractor that would transmit at least broadly what you've been saying for the last 30 minutes or so?
I'd say own your science. So, like, there is a large body of science there. Own your science. And when you start digesting the science, I think you'll also look after yourself better, because I think a lot of chiropractors are very burnt out. One of the most amazing feedbacks I get from going through some of my programs is my chiropractors are telling me that they're getting adjusted more regularly. Like, that is gold, because if that's what the science is telling them, that's exactly what it's telling the patients. And I do the same thing. I pay for my care. I pay for my husband's care, my 2 adult kids, and my staff. Like that is the whole research team. At the New Zealand College now we have over 35 researchers in our research centre alone. I think it makes us the largest research centre on the planet that's studying chiropractic.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'd say own your science and look after your own spine, because it wouldn't surprise me if you're not actually doing that well enough, because that will enable your brain to function at its optimal potential, which means you can make better choices and just function better.
I am shocked at how many
On the right
chiropractors
trajectory.
don't get adjusted regularly.
Isn't that
It's
travesty?
staggering.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yet they tell their patients how important it is to be regular.
Yeah, but
I
I
don't get it.
think they understand it. They don't.
No.
Yeah.
That shows
Yeah.
a complete lack of understanding in my mind, truly.
Hence, own your science, guys. Yeah,
Right.
it's there now,
There you go.
and it fits so
That's
well
the
with
line.
philosophy.
Hence neuroscience. I
Yes,
love it.
100%, Mark.
On a
100%.
different note, when
I
someone
love
hears
it.
your accent, how many times do they ask you about Lord of the Rings?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. And Hobbiton, there is a place called Hobbiton. So yeah, it's Peter Jackson did an
Beautiful country.
incredible thing there for us.
Yeah.
Have you
Beautiful
actually
country.
taken that Lord of the Rings tour that they offer?
My kids are absolute fanatics.
Are they?
So yes, Paul, we've gone through, again, Harry Potter world when
Yeah.
we go through Orlando. Yeah, so many times. Anyway, and we've gone on these Lord of the Rings tours, and I've been through Hobbiton at least 10 times.
Wow.
And it's just unreal.
And
But there's so much, because it was filmed all over the place, so that
Right.
we there's some in the South Island, there's some in the North Island. So I probably haven't explored all of it yet, but a lot, yes. And I get my kids, they're like right down to this is what was. I'm like, yeah, okay.
yeah,
yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving
It's not
on, right?
chiropractic neuroscience. Like,
Yeah, right.
it's irrelevant information for my brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. The hobbits be taller if they got adjusted. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess there is something you have coming up that you would like
Oh,
to
I do.
mention.
Yes, Mark. Thank you.
Yes.
Because what I do too is I put together these little masterclasses just to, for chiropractors that aren't necessarily willing to go right into the science and own it all yet, just to get a feel for what we now know. So I've got one coming up, which is so incredible. So I call them masterclasses. They're about 2 hours. Sometimes they end up longer because I stay until all the questions have been addressed. But I've done some on how to explain the new science, how to explain it to healthcare providers, how do we affect organs, and this one coming up now is the connection between chiropractic and the immune system. So I wrote a review in 2021 during COVID, but we've recently done a clinical trial looking at all these different neuroimmune markers. Like an example, one of them is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is like literally, if it increases, your health has gone up. Right? If it decreases, your health has gone down, your brain health. Now we've shown over how many weeks was it? Can't remember. I'll be telling you properly in the in the actual masterclass coming up. But there's an increase over a period of 12 weeks of care. But there's all these other neuroimmune markers. And then again, I'll go into how do you explain that? It's actually really basic and easy. And this is what scientists are well aware of. So adding in that extra why we would affect the immune system is there. And I'll go through these unbelievable findings from some of our latest neuroimmune. One is published. We've got another one, though, showing the changes in gene expression. So you know how epigenetics works, right? That your environment and what's happening to you changes, turns on some genes, turns off others. Well, oh my goodness me, we've just recently got the results from a study showing which genes get turned on from the neuroimmune aspect as well. It's just unbelievable.
Wow.
Because when you get multiple studies from different people measuring different things, but they're all telling the same story, that's where my conviction comes from. I have no doubt when I speak. And I'm not saying I know everything, but what I do know, I know. I know, there's no doubt about that. But we're still exploring, all these other ideas that, we could be affecting as well. God, you got to shut me up. I just keep going.
We're
love it.
just grateful to have you in our profession and to let the chiropractors understand they're more than just back doctors, that they actually serve a greater purpose and that their practices serve people in a greater way. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us.
Absolute pleasure. I'll chat with you guys anytime. Lovely to meet you.
Love your
too, Paul.
passion.
I'm going to hold you to that.
And you're
Thank
very
you.
charming, so you could tell me off, and I probably would just thank you because of how you deliver it and your accent.
But you realize what words I would use, though, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I've been in your lecture.
Starts with an F
Exactly.
and ends with off,
Yeah. So, So those that are listening, we'll put links so you can find out more about Dr. Haavik in our YouTube and our social media channels, so you can grab that if you need that and want that. And we just thank you so much for taking the time. It's been amazing. It's been
absolute
an
pleasure,
education.
Paul, Mark.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure.
Appreciate it all.
So that was Dr.
Thank
Heidi
you.
Haavik. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Thank you all.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.